I just love your pastor. Both of them. Yeah, you should. You should. You got some of the best. I get to spend a lot of time with pastors. That's part of my role with ARC is to just go. I told them last night, they said, so what do you do at ARC? I'm like, I'll go eat dinner with pastors. It's a good job. I mean, it's why I look like I do. But I enjoy pastors. I enjoy hearing their story. And, last night we went around the table asking some weird questions like, what do you want your grandparent name to be? When you become a grandparent, what do you want it to be? Asking questions like that. But then really the ones that are exciting to me is hearing why are you pastoring a church? What's your story behind this? And knowing why your pastors, first of all, if they don't know the answer to that, then you're in trouble. These guys know why they're doing this. And it's because God called them to do this. God put this in their heart, and they're obeying God to do something that is, it's a little crazy. Anybody ever thought, man, I want to go pastor a church. I want to go start a church and pastor it. No, you don't just come up with this idea like, oh, this is a good idea. This is a good career move. No, it's something that if God puts it on you, then it's the right thing to do. But it's not like on the top 10 career moves to do, say, let me go pastor a church, let alone start one. But what you and Carmen are doing is heroic. And you guys got to know it. I want to share a story with you today, something that I've been walking through and am still learning, still going through. But I've found that what God's given me, there's some people out there that need the same thing. So I don't want to keep it to myself. I want to share it. The last 4 years, I've got invited to lead an organization. My parents started 30 years ago doing missions work, and leading that, being in that leadership position in an organization and a ministry at that, it's different than being, I've been every role you can be in a church besides the lead pastor. Like literally, I led women's ministries meetings. It's weird, but everything. I've run the sound booth. Thank you for what you're doing, because without you, I'm just up here hollering in the dark. But it is something that I've learned. What I'm going to talk about today, I've learned a lot more, even in the last 4 years, about as having to lead in a spot. Maybe some of you lead your own business. All of you are leading in some capacity. You're leading your own household. If you're single, living alone, you're leading your home. So there is a role we all have in that, and in leadership, it's a key thing. I have my wife and we've been married 30, oh gosh, I jumped right into that. Next month, be 34 years. We got 5 kids. Victoria Grace, James Daniel. Nobody knows why that name was there, because my name's Dan's, but Victoria Grace, we named intentionally. We went after the names. I'm big on names, because I grew up where kids has a weird name, you pick on them. So I'm like being a filter. My wife comes up with this name. I'm like, Afton. Hopefully nobody's named Afton in here, right? I'm like, we're both large people, me and my wife. And I'm like, if it's a girl and she's named Afton, they're going to go half ton with her. Like, I can't do this. So like my wife came up with these great names that now I wish we'd done, but whatever. So I'm the filter on that. So Victoria Grace, victory through grace, great name, call her Tori. James Daniel, named after family, and family we respect. And then Lincoln David. David was my dad. Lincoln, that kind of goes without saying. It's a great character to follow. And then who had twins. They're now 18, but Rhett Edwards and Rhodes Ohlerking. So you had the matchy-matchy on the RH in the beginning of the names, but both of them mean fire, fiery and red. I was like, I don't know if that's a good idea to do with naming your last 2 kids, but so we got 5 kids. 2 of them are married. The 2 oldest ones are married, and we have 1 grandkid, Cosmo Blue. I don't know where my daughter came up with this name. She's a little hippie, but I do know where she came up with it. There's a psalm that talks about his glory will be revealed in the cosmos. So she went after, I don't know where Blue came from. That's pure hippie, but Cosmo Blue. He's a 3-year-old, lives in Louisiana. We'll be there later this week. And we got a stupid dog. So there you go. I am not a dog lover. I hate cats, but I really just don't care for dogs. Anyway, it's the hassle of a dog. I enjoy him. I play with him. But all of that, leading a home where you got 5 kids, 2 in-law kids, a grandkid, a dog. Leadership is something you find that it's not all in you to do. That's what I found. I don't have what it takes to do everything God's put on me to do. That's actually a good spot to be, because then you feel like, hey, I really need God and I need to lean on him. But trust the verse, trust in the Lord with all your heart. We always go on because it's Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. You say the whole thing together, but if you just start with that phrase right there, that phrase has been the story of my life. Not that I'm doing it well, but I'm learning to do that. Is trust in the Lord with all your heart. Let me pray, and then we'll jump into this. God, I pray you'd help me to communicate your thoughts today and give you glory by revealing what you're saying. And God, let the things that you've been teaching me be something that changes lives today. And give us something to hold on to deeper than we have before. In Jesus' name, amen. Trusting God protects our minds. It guards our hearts. It guides our choices. That Proverbs 3:5, trust in the Lord with all your heart and don't lean on your own understanding. And then in verse 6, in all your ways acknowledge him and he'll make your path straight. I have, it's probably since 7 or 8 years old, the first times I can remember being this, but I graduated very early into professional worrying, like a professional grade worry. I'd get a headache. As soon as I knew what an aneurysm was or even had any idea, I knew, hey, when I'm having a headache, my mind goes to, my head's going to blow up. It's going to rupture. I'm just going to, that was me. I'd get a hangnail. I still bite my nails. It's dumb. But sorry if you're dumb with me, but we're dumb. We shouldn't bite our nails. But I get a hangnail. And my little mind at 9 years old, I'd be like, man, that's starting to hurt. I would accelerate things, but my finger's going to fall off. I get a little patch of dry skin, think, oh, it's leprosy. My arm's going to fall off. I get a stomach ache. My stomach's going to fall. I kind of wish that would happen. My stomach just fall off. Come on, it would just be the easy way to diet. But literally, my mind, if I get any kind of ache or pain, I would go to the extreme of what it could be, and I'd start worrying about that. To the point where when I was in 6th grade, I missed 7 months of school because of being sick. I would have a little stomach ache, probably just ate too much greasy pizza or something, get a stomach ache. Then I'd start worrying about that stomach ache. Then my worry actually turned into making my stomach hurt. Anybody ever worried so much your stomach hurts, you get physically ill because you're worrying? That was me. So I was 6th grade, I'm in and out of school. Like, they couldn't figure it out. They had me on Maalox and all this stuff. There's nothing wrong with me. It's all in my head. But it's actually translating to there being something physically wrong. That was my story. I was good at worrying. Okay, then fast forward, my wife, it's the year 2000. My wife and I are, we're living in Louisiana. My dad and mom had started Children's Cup, this organization, and we'd been helping out. And Dad called me up one day. He said, hey, there was a storm went through Zimbabwe where a bunch of our work is. I'd like to have you come with me and check out all the damage and see what we need to do. So I was like, I'd love to go. Let me talk with Vicki. That's kind of how we do things. I don't just say yes. Last night, he asked me if I could preach. I'm like, I like the idea. Let me check with Vicki. That's how you make 34 years, folks. That's how you do it. Just yes, dear. So I went and checked with her, and we prayed about it, and we both felt very uncomfortable about it, but we also knew God was saying I should go. I just remember that moment. I don't know why it was so significant. I remember we're standing in our closet in our bedroom. We had the bedroom to ourselves, but we're in the closet praying about this, and we just both knew I should go. So I did, hopped on the plane. At that time, really wasn't cell phones in Africa to be used, and so it wasn't a lot here either, but at that yellow brick Nextel. Anybody old enough to remember those? Yeah, that's what I had. So that wasn't going to work in Africa. And so the routine that we would go through anytime I go to Africa was I'd get to Johannesburg, the big city there, and from there we would drive all day for 3 or 4 days to get where we're going. Well, so I'd get to Johannesburg about 24 hours after I leave Baton Rouge. And the habit was go up to the phone booth thing and call her and just check in before we're like a week of no communication. So I go up and call her. Remember, 24 hours since. And my wife knows me and this whole worry thing, right? So she's always tried to navigate that and protect me from knowing things at times. So I call her, say, hey, how's it going? She said, that's good. I went to the doctor and had him check out that lump in my neck today. I'm like, I've been gone 24 hours. You've already been to the doctor. What lump? Like, you never said anything about a lump in your neck. So I'm already, my radar is way high. Like, what in the world's going on? And she said, yeah, don't worry about it. It's no big deal. But he wants to do a biopsy in a couple weeks, or he wants to see me again in a couple weeks to consider doing a biopsy to make sure it's not cancer. I was like, that sentence ended with the C word. And it did not go well. Like, getting to that, I'm like, not liking this. You're waiting 2 weeks? Why is he waiting 2 weeks? We should be doing a biopsy now. I'm getting back on the plane. I can see it out there. I'm getting back on that plane coming home. This is what she said, "You're an idiot." I was like, "Thank you, Vicki." Again, yes, dear, 34 years is how you get this, but why am I an idiot? I'm coming back. You're dying of cancer. Like how? Because my mind's gone there. And I'm not making light of it. This is me. I'm like thinking this is bad. I got to get home. I may only have a few weeks left with her. That's where my head was. She's like, "You're an idiot. We prayed and God said you should go, so you're going." Somehow she talked me into staying. We go do this trip. But in the car, I'm worrying. I mean, I'm worrying like on steroids, like I've never worried before. It's me and my brother-in-law in the back of the car, and this missionary named Bino. That's what we call him. And I don't know why, but we do. And then my dad in the front. We're riding down the highway, and I'm just a wreck. I'm like wringing my hands, worrying. Like I'm not even that kind of worry where I wring my hands, but I was, and I started playing with my wedding ring. And I'm looking at it, I'm just like, I got this little rubber one now. So nice. You don't rip your finger off, it snags on something. Anyway, $5 on Amazon. But I'm sitting there looking at my ring thinking this symbolizes, this was a little service merchandise ring, okay? Like, it's $300 in 1988. Y'all know some of y'all weren't even born in 88, but the rings in 88 were not that cool for guys. But it's a little gold ring with 5 itty-bitty tiny diamonds and a whole bunch of fake metal in there. There was real metal, but fake cool stuff. But I'm sitting there looking at this ring and thinking, remembering the day, and I'm getting all nostalgic, and like, I'm going to miss her. But then thinking about what this ring means, and I'm praying a little bit, but I'm mostly worrying. And I tell my dad and Bino what's going on, and they're praying. Man, we're going to be praying. She's going to be fine. No big deal. Like, we'll get back there in a couple weeks. I'm just worrying. And as I'm worrying, I'm hearing this rage of worry and thoughts of potential negative. And there's this little tiny voice that's saying, "Trust me. Just trust me." But I'm so engaged in the worrying that this is a really teeny tiny voice. It's not getting through. But thinking back, I remember it's there. So we're going down the road. And the way it works there, you have to drive, at this time, you're driving through, if you drive all day, spend the night someplace. You don't drive at night. So nightfall, you spend the night, then you get up and you go the next morning early, you go make it to the next place, and then you're there. And so we're going down the road. We end up making it that night. We go to this little place in the middle of nowhere, and we spend the night in this house and get up the next. I do this thing when I'm traveling. I did it in the hotel last night. Take my baseball cap off, and I put my ring and all my valuables in the hat. So it's kind of all there together, not strewn out all over. Get up the next morning, we get in the car, and I've got my baseball cap, got everything going. And we get in the car, and again, all-day drive. We're about 2 hours down the road. Can't drive at night. We're about 2 hours down the road, and I start with this whole worry thing again. And I'm wringing my hands. I'm thinking, this is bad. Hearing that little voice, "Trust me." I can't figure out. I can't even hear that because I'm so consumed with this is just horrible. I can't believe I'm even here because she's dying. Well, I start wringing my hands, and I reach down and feel my ring is not on my finger. Guys, you know that naked feeling you have when the ring's not on your finger? Like, what? I can't believe I've just left the house without my shirt on. It's like there's no ring. And then it hits me like this is a sign. God's prepping me. I've lost my ring. I've lost her. He's just preparing my heart. This is what life's going to be like. I'm not going to have the ring on anymore because she's going to be gone. And I'm deciding, will I get another ring and wear it as symbol for her? I'm like, my mind's way out there and planning that she's gone. Little small voice saying, "Trust me," but I can't hear it. I tell my dad, and my dad was one of the most compassionate people I know most of the time. But in this moment, he's like, it was a service merchandise ring, right? It's like $300. We'll get you a new one. Let's go, And I'm sitting there thinking, we can't turn around because it's 2 hours down. We're 2 hours down the road. That's a 4-hour turnaround that we lose. We're going to be driving after nightfall if we do. And as I'm thinking that, Bino turns the car around. I'm like, oh, great. Now we're going to die on the road. I won't even outlive my wife now. This is horrible. Well, we turn it around, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, this is bad. This is so bad. I'm like, there's no way this ring's going to be there. The economy was so bad in Zimbabwe at that time that the cost of that ring was like more than a year's wages for the average person where we were. Like, there's no way. If they found it, there's no way they're giving it back, and it's not going to be there. But Bino's just driving down there. He's going fast. And I'm just worrying. Same thing, little small voice saying, "Trust me." But it's getting drowned out by my own my own myths that I'm making up and the stories I'm telling myself. And so we turn off the highway. It's a little drive on a dirt road down to this house. And so they could see us coming. The dirt's all kicking up. We get to the gate of this house, of this property. There's a guy about 20 years old. He's standing there like this. He's about, and I don't know what's in his hand, but he's just standing there doing this. I'm like, that's a weird way to welcome people. Maybe, and the thought hits me, maybe he's got my ring. What's he going to want for it? And, so I'm thinking I've got about $5 in my pocket. That's all I got. It's cash that I could give him. And we stop, we get out of the car, and this guy kind of reaches it out to me. I get out of the car, I run to him. At that time, I was real light. I was like 250, right? About 250 at that time. This guy's about $120, okay? I mean, and I wanted to I run up. He kind of does this number, like still reaching out, but trying to defend himself. And I looked down, there's my ring. And I was like, my eyes got wide, and he could tell. He just kind of extended it like, here, take it. This is yours. And I took the ring. I gave him everything in my pockets, and literally it was enough to buy a roll of toilet paper for him. And that's all I had. I gave him a hug, I'm sure he was terrified of that. Like, don't break me. But I start to walk back to the car. I'm just, thank you. Walking back to the car. And I was like, I got to be able to tell my wife this story. Because, as she goes, she's going to need to know what God, that I thought I lost my ring, but I didn't. So I turned to the guy and I said, hey, hold up. And he's like, he turns around, big smile on his face. And I said, I got to know your name. I need to be able to tell your story. And he said, my name? My name is Trust. And I was like, oh, time out. Hold up. Back that up. Sounds like you said your name's Trust. What's your name? He said, Trust. T-R-U-S-T. He spelled it. T-R-U-S-T. Trust. And he smiled and walked on. And I was just like, in that moment, all of a sudden, that little tiny voice got super loud. And I just made that choice in that moment. God, whatever the future is with her, with me, whatever you've got, I'm going to trust you. Either you've got this or you don't. And if you don't, then this is a whole sham, the whole thing we're doing here. So either you've got it or you don't. So I'm going to choose to believe you do. And so we did the rest of the trip. Everything went great. Went back, got back to the U.S. A couple weeks later. She goes for this thing. They do a biopsy a few weeks later, and they find out it's not cancer. I'm like, yay, great, end of story, right? They're like, this is wonderful. I trusted God, and she didn't have cancer. Well, fast forward about 14 years, she's having this thing. Her grandparent name is Wheezy. Okay, mine's Duke, hers is Wheezy. We did not pick this, our kids did. Mine makes no sense at all. Hers is derived from, she would have this wheezing. When she laughs, she has this wheeze, and it's funny. It's a wheeze laugh. You know what I'm talking about. Like somebody just busts out laughing. It's funny how they laugh. Well, that's her. But she also, this wheeze was also something that was, they were treating like a breathing problem. And finally, we moved to California, and the doctor there was like, hey, let's do a scan. Let's see what's going on in there. And they find a lump in her lung, and that's causing the wheezing. So he's like, we need to take it out. We need to look at it, see what's going on. So when the doctor sat us down in his office after they checked it out, he looked at us, and he's a believer. He looked at us, he said, hey, yeah, it's cancer. And I'm like, knowing me, I look back at that story, even in the moment, we looked at each other after he left out, we looked at each other like, why aren't we freaking out right now? Because we just had the classic movie moment of a doctor saying, yes, it's cancer. And we're going to have to do this. And but we're not. We're here. And she was like, this wasn't great for me in the moment, but it's where we honestly are. She was like, hey, worst case, I've got heaven. I'm like, well, good for you. I'm stuck here without you then, so you're going to stay around a little bit. And but we both settled into that. We're just going to trust God. He's doing something with this. It's not purposeless. It's not, wow, God got surprised by that one. He didn't know, he knew. And so we've just chosen to trust him with it. And it has made the experience be something rather than walking through her having cancer. Now they've done like 4 operations, go find another spot, because they did that scan. When they did that, they found something in each kidney. They eventually found something in her liver. They found stuff in her ovaries. And they just go cut stuff out. Like, so far, her cancer story has been, oh, let's just go cut that out. We'll go cut that out. And it's cut out. And then they watch the stuff that's too small to cut out. but it's this neuroendocrine tumor. That's the first time I've ever said that in public because I just learned the term on the way here. And so they don't know a lot about how to do it. They don't know why it's in so many different places. They just don't know. It doesn't move real fast, but it's like they're just trying to figure it out. So she's like, maybe my journey is about helping the medical field figure out something they don't know yet. And then we're both like, but I think there's more to it. Our kids, they were 14, the youngest were 14 when we discovered this, or we started this journey, and they've had to choose. Before that, they'd never really been tested in their faith. Do they really believe God for themselves, or they just believe because mom and dad said it? Through this journey, they've made that choice. They say, oh, I get it. God's got this. I believe God. I'm like, what is that worth to see your kids figure this out and say, I believe in God for myself? Is it worth having a cancer diagnosis? Probably so. In the long term, 100 billion years from now, yeah, it's worth it. I'm not the one with cancer. I'm the one taking care of her as she goes through chemo and stuff. But she's the one with cancer. And to hear her talk to we went to visit Africa, our Children's Cup team there, and she doesn't public speak. That's just not her at all. Introvert. She's an 8 on the Enneagram. If you're an Enneagram person, she's an 8 with a wing 8. Okay, she's all 8. But she's introvert like crazy. But she got up and she spoke to our team there, about 20 of our leaders in Africa, and she talked about speaking life. She went to Google once and looked up this neuroendocrine tumor thing. She's like, I'm not doing that again because that's speaking death. Because all the stuff on that's horrible. But then she's saying, I'm speaking life. I'm going with Psalm 30. I'm going with Psalm 91. Going with Psalm 18. She's like diving into the Word. She's not been a heavy, reader, consumer. I watched her the first 3 months of this year. She read the entire Bible in 3 months. I'm like, I can't read the entire Bible in a year hardly. I'm slow reader, but she reads it, she's consuming it, and she's speaking life over herself. And she said, she was praying one day, she came to me, she said, I think God told me, not think now, we're both locked into this. She said, I'm going to live to see 90. I'm like, I'm 5 years older than you. This don't need 95. So you're going to be on your own a little bit. But I'm like, that's awesome. So I'm like, what does that look like? What is God doing? I don't know. But the trusting God is what has made it where we can go through this. I don't know how people go through life's challenges, whether it's cancer or COVID or job loss or a family member dying, whatever. I don't know how people make it through without trusting God, believing that God is in control still. Trusting God. I'm a big Mario Kart fan. Any video gamers? Yeah, Mario Kart? Got 2. I'll talk to you for a minute here. It's like the star prize. When you're riding, this is a video game, you're racing, and you're 2 little Italian dudes, and you can, or whatever, weird characters, and you can throw things at the other drivers and mess them up. Sling a turtle shell at them. It's so weird. It's like you're on some weird drug trip. But it's really great. It's a fun game. And so there's this one prize you can get, though, where it's a star. And not only does it make you go fast and defend you from these turtle shells that other people are throwing at you, but you can also run through big blocks of cheese, right? You can just run right through it, or normally just stop somebody. You just run right on through. I'm like, that is what trusting God is like. It's not just defending you from the cancer challenges and the challenges that come our way. It also gives you the ability to go right through things that are in front of you. You go forward better. You go forward stronger. You actually go faster when you trust God. I'm also a big Pixar fan till lately. I get a little weird lately, but Mr. Incredible. Remember The Incredibles, the family? Okay. Violet, anybody remember what the daughter's power was? Sorry, it's a spoiler if you haven't seen the movie, my bad. But it's this force field. She can put up this force field and save the family from a car falling from the sky. That's what trusting God is like. You have this force field that just other things that would crush other people, no problem. God's got this. It's so weird. It's like it's a surreal thing to stand here and tell you, knowing my history of being a professional grade worrier, to stand here and tell you, my wife got diagnosed with cancer and we're good. Like, she's been through chemo. We're good. They're talking about radiation. We're good. She gets a shot every month. We're good. God's got it. It's not because we're awesome. It's because God showed us that trusting him is the way through. Psalm 91 is an incredible chapter, but the verse 2 in there says, he's my refuge and my fortress, my God, in him will I trust. That's the key. He is my refuge. He is my fortress. It's like, I don't know if you have to, if you live in Colorado, you've eaten snow or snow cones or ice cream or whatever too fast, and you get the brain freeze thing. Okay, we all know what that's like. But do you recall last time you had that, how good it felt when the pain went away? Like, I get that sometimes, like, I want to do that again. That's crazy, but it feels so good when the headache suddenly goes away. You're just like, yeah, that's great. That's kind of what, when you finally choose to trust God, you don't even realize all the headaches you've been carrying. But when you choose to, God, I trust you. You lead the way. I'm with you. It's like that brain freeze goes away. Or there's these videos on YouTube. I encourage you, go watch. Go look it up on YouTube, the colorblind glasses. And it's these glasses, some colorblind people can put these special glasses on and see color for the first time. It's amazing. Imagine, maybe if you're colorblind and you know what I'm talking about, you don't see color. Then you put these glasses on, and all of a sudden, the world comes alive. It's like you didn't know what you were missing. There's a video, big burly dude, he's like, I've heard about this, everybody cries when they see color, I'm not going to cry. Carrying on about being a tough guy. And they got this simple thing of some balloons sitting there, red, yellow, blue, orange, green, and some trees in the background and blue sky. And he puts these glasses on. He sees these balloons. He just stares at them. He just starts sobbing. I'm like, this is great, But that's what I think God feels like when we've been living life. Not that all colorblind people is black and white, but we've been living life in a black and white. And when you choose to trust God, God's just like, just trust me, little small voice, trust me. When we finally choose to do that, God is just sitting there watching for you to be like, you didn't even know what you were missing. What life is like when you trust God, it's like going from black and white to color. It is an amazing way to live. My youngest son, he said, Dad, I'd never take those glasses off. Because the people, it's so funny, they take the glasses off and hand them back. I'm like, no, man, these are mine. I'm going to sew them to my head. Because I don't want to ever live life that way again. I told Rhodes, I'm like, yeah, that's it. Let's trust God in each and every part of our lives. It's not just about cancer. It's about everything. It's about your job. It's about your family. It's about your kids that are not serving God. It's about your mom and dad that are not serving God. It is about life all the way around. The more you trust God, the more life you'll experience. Trust Him in trouble. Trust Him when everything's going great. Just be relentless and tenacious about trusting Him. Something comes along and you have a choice. Am I going to worry or am I going to trust God? Just be brutally tenacious about, I'm going to trust God, period. That is it. God will rescue us. I'm going to give you your homework. It's not school. It's summertime. You shouldn't be doing schoolwork. So this is just homework. It's church homework. Psalm 18. It's not Psalm 119, like one of those really long, take you 3 years to read it, chapters, but it's kind of long. But when you read this chapter, it'll give you a picture of how God responds when His kids are in trouble. And that you put yourself in David's shoes. So when you read Psalm 18, put yourself in his shoes, and it draws a picture of God coming to the rescue of His kid. And that is the God who I trust. So I want to just encourage you, before you go to sleep tonight, read Psalm 18. And remember this, God always has a plan even before the problem. This is what I was going to say at dinner last night that I forgot. We got distracted. Romans 8:28, God works everything together for the good of those who are called, who love Him and are called according to His purpose. God is always at work. It's not like I've seen the bumper stickers, T-shirts, and it makes sense. I get what they're saying, but they say, I'm not worried. God's already working on a solution before I ask. I get that. That's cool. But I don't think God's working on a solution. I think back when He said, let there be light, He knew Vicky was going to have this lump in her lung that was going to be found to be cancer. He didn't start working on the solution when I realized there's a problem. He already had the thing going on when He said, let there be light. So He's already got the plan. Now, there's free will in all this too, but He still knew. And He set things in course. He's not scrambling to figure out an answer. He's already working it. Even before I know there's a problem, He's already working it together for our good. I just have to believe that. God always has a plan even before the problem. God's plan wins. Think about Jesus praying in the garden before He went to the cross. He said, man, it's not how Jesus said it, but Father, it'd be great if we didn't have to do this whole cross thing. But what did He say? Nevertheless, not what I will. I want what you want. I don't want to do it my way. I want to do it your way. God's plan always works. It's always the win. I'll make room for you to do whatever you want to do. That's kind of my version of Jesus' prayer. I'll make room for you to do whatever you want. Use my life, Lord. God brings purpose to our pain, and he never wastes our tears. Never. There's just never been a tear that we've cried or a pain we've felt that God is just like, yeah, that was tough. It's not just compassion. He's working something. Your pain has purpose. The challenges in your life, it's not just there for you to endure and make it through. Yes, we need to endure to the end, but it's not just about our endurance. It's about us overcoming. And there's purpose in this pain. And I think about the three Hebrew children, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. What did they say to the big bad ruler who made this idol that they're all supposed to worship to, or you get thrown in this fiery furnace? They said, hey, our God, we're not going to bow to your idol, because that's against what God said to do, so we're not doing that. And our God's able to deliver us from your fiery furnace, and he will, ... But even if he doesn't, we're still not bound. I thought, they didn't need to say that. That just needled him a little bit, That's just like, but like, we're not doing it your way. We're doing it God's way. And he's able to deliver us, and he will. But even if he doesn't, I'm still serving him. That's the way I want to live. It's just like, hey, I'm not going the other way of saying I'm not trusting God. That's a horrible route. So if you have the choice, trust God, don't trust God, look at the options. That's the two choices you have in life. You're on your own to figure this all out, or you got Almighty Creator of everything behind you giving purpose to everything you go through. We just don't know what miracles God has in store when we surrender to trusting him instead of trying to figure it out all ourselves. When we just surrender to trusting him, there are miracles in store that we can't imagine. So I just want to encourage you today. Trust God no matter what it takes. No matter what, just trust him. He's got it. And it doesn't mean you sit back on the couch and just wait for life to pass by. I'm not saying that. Trusting God sometimes means I'm going to get up and go talk to that person. I'm going to get up and go say I'm sorry to my spouse. Because if I'm not trusting God, I've got to inflict my authority or whatever. No. Trusting God is active. It's active. It's not just sitting back. It's obeying him to go start a church. It's obeying him to do what he says, because what you have in front of you is a challenge. So let me give you something real practical. You guys can come and start playing. I'm about done. How to get started with trusting God. Super practical. Let trusting God rule every part of your life. Don't leave it just to when I'm at church on Sunday or when it's religious stuff, I'm going to trust God. Every part of your life. Trust God in it. Do whatever it takes to trust God. Whatever. If it means you got to go say I'm sorry to somebody. It means you got to go speak up to somebody and say, hey, I've been needing to tell you about my faith in God. Trust God every part of your life and do whatever it takes. Whatever, and this is a big one. Wherever your fear or worry is, whatever it's revolved around, consider leaning in there first. So if you're worried about your money, if you're like, man, money's so tight right now, I just encourage you, start trusting God with your money. Be faithful in your tithes. Give more. Be more generous in your giving to church, in your giving to the poor. Like, be faithful in the very thing that is the biggest challenge to you. Be faithful to do what God said, and watch. God will do miracles you never imagined. What if it's time? You're worried about, man, I'm having to hold down 2 jobs, and I've got this going on, I got this going on, I got my kids doing baseball and soccer. I don't know how 24 hours a day is enough for me. If that's your worry, your pressure, your concern, I just encourage you, find a way to carve out some time to spend more time giving to others. Serve others. Go be a part of it. Whatever the Tuesday night is, I guess that's outreach you guys do on Tuesday nights. Go be a part of that. Carve out some time to do something that gives away and leans into the very challenging area itself. Just lean into that if it's your time. If it's what's going on in the world is your worry, like COVID and Ukraine and all these just, oh my goodness, if you watch the news, if you're a worrier, that's the worst thing you can do is watch the news. I'd encourage you, stop watching the news, good or, I say good or bad, conservative or liberal news. Take your pick. Just stop watching the news. Start reading the Gospels. I'm telling you, it'll change your world. You're not going to miss out on knowing something happened that was really important for you to know what happened. If you read the Gospels, if you don't read the Gospels, you're missing out on something that's really important. If you read that, it'll change your perspective on all of it. Lean into the area where your fear and worry is. And you say, well, man, it's just so hard. All of this life is so hard. It's so hard just to trust God and let go and to lean into that. Mark 9, there's a story about Jesus. He's teaching. This guy comes in with his son, and says, hey, God, Lord, it'd be great if you could heal my son. And Jesus is like, little kind of, I can see a little smile on his face, like, if I can. He says, anything's possible to him that believes. And this father leans into Jesus and said, I do believe, but help my unbelief. I was like, that's me. I do believe Jesus is my Savior. When Vicki and I faced that with her cancer, Jesus is my Savior. Like, there's no question there. But I was still having a hard time with my belief, with trusting him. And like that guy, he just prayed, said, God, help me with my unbelief. If this is hard for you to really get your head around, how am I going to trust God with everything I got going on? Ask him to help you trust him. He's not like waiting for you to get this right with his arms folded. He's leaning in saying, just let me help you. I'm trustworthy. I got my part done. You're falling short on your part. Lean in. I just want to help you. Ask him to help you. Focus on praising God. There's a song we sing in church a lot. It says, you sing songs of praise to shake prison walls. You use songs of praise to shake prison walls. Praising God changes your perspective. It reminds you how great God is. And then this is a big one for me. Remind yourself about eternity, like my wife did in the doctor's office that day. She's like, hey, I got heaven. I mean, no matter what, I'm good. If this is all terrible for the next however long and whatever, I got heaven. It's not escapism. It's just that sure footing that you got that, hey, heaven's real. Heaven's more real than this right here. I get to go. So I'm good. Whatever my task is on this earth, I'm good. And then the last one is just settle into his love. Believe it. He sees you. He's not unaware of your problem. He's not unaware of your challenges. He sees you and he loves you. Settle into that. There is sure footing there. So just put your trust fully in his love today. Let me pray for you. God, I pray you'd help us today to realize the incredible amount of love you have for us. You're not unaware of our pain and our struggle. God, I pray you'd open our hearts to that. Lord, let this come back to our minds, everybody in this room, as they go about their week. God, I pray that these thoughts would come back to them, and that Psalm 18, as they read that, God, you would speak to them and remind us, you're with us, you're fighting for us, and you have got us. And we can trust you because you will never, never fail. In Jesus' name, amen.